All right, so up to this point, what we've done with this, what I've had you do is I have told you what kind of a change we're going to make to investment or government spending or net exports. Then we've applied the change, and then we have seen the result of what the new GDP is. And we've also calculated, if I told you what kind of change we were going to make, you could multiply it by the Keynesian multiplier and find out how much the effect was going to be. What I want to do now, though, is I kind of want to work backwards. Okay, I'm going to show you how to work backwards, and it's really easy to do this, just a couple steps. I want to show you how to increase or decrease GDP when you decide how much you want it to increase or decrease by. Okay, so again, in this example, GDP, equilibrium GDP is at 12,400 because along this row, total expenditure and income are both equal. That's the only row where they're equal, and therefore that's equilibrium GDP. But let's say that we want equilibrium GDP to not be 12,400. Let's say that we want equilibrium GDP to be 12,500. We're deciding what we want it to be. We're not just taking an input and then finding out what's the new GDP. We're deciding we want equilibrium GDP to be 12,500. Now at 12,500, we are not currently in equilibrium, right? So we need to figure out what it is that's going to change to put us into equilibrium. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. The first thing you're going to do is you want to decide how much you want to decide what you want the new GDP to be. Okay, well, how much you want to increase it by. Decide how much you want to increase or decrease equilibrium GDP. Now, if you're decreasing, that's going to be a negative number. I'm going to put that here. Decrease is negative. Okay, so your change would be negative. You would subtract from investment, government spending, or net exports instead of adding. Okay, so you decide how much you want it to change. So how much do we want this to change by? If we want to go from 12,400 to 12,500, it's going to change by 100. Okay, so for us, our change is going to be 100. Second thing you're going to do is you are going to divide that number by the Keynesian multiplier. And so the Keynesian multiplier is 4. So we want to make a positive 100 change. And so we're going to divide 100 by 4, and that gives us positive 25. That is our initial change. Okay? So that, or the result, is your initial change. Okay? All right, step 3, apply the initial change to either investment or government spending or net exports, X minus M. Now, you can actually split the change among the 3. So this 25, I could either add 25 to investment or 25 to government spending or add 25 to net exports. If I add it to net exports is going to become negative 975. Okay? Or I can add 10 to investment and 15 to government spending, as long as the total effect is 25. Okay? And then 4 is going to be the chain reaction of consumption spending. You don't have to do the chain reaction. It's going to happen automatically in the table, or conceptually it's automatically going to happen. The chain reaction of consumption spending will move GDP to the desired level. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do that. So let's use, I'll use green this time. So we'll add 25. We can, well, let's just add it to one of them. Let's go ahead and add it to government spending. So this will now be 2725 all the way down, 2725 all the way down. Okay, so we're adding 25 to total expenditure. So this is now going to be 12,125. This will be 12,200. This will be 12,275. This will be 12,350. This will be 12,425. This will be 12,500. This will be 12,575, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what you can now see is on the row that we cared about, 12,500. On that same row, all the way over here is 12,500 in total expenditure. And now we have equilibrium between income and total expenditure, and GDP is now 12,500. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to. I'm just going to go ahead and do a few more of these examples. They're much easier to do. We can do them faster if we do them in Excel on a computer. So I'm going to switch over to my computer now, and you can see a few examples. Okay. So we're going to do some examples here where we decide how much we want to increase or decrease equilibrium GDP by. So we can see here, this is our same example that we've been looking at up on the board, and we can see that our equilibrium GDP is 12,400 because we got 12,400 here, and on the other side of the column we got 12,400 here. That's our income is equal to our total expenditure. Let's say that we want to increase GDP by, I don't know, 300. Okay. So if we want GDP to now be, instead of 12,400, we want it to be 12,700. That's our goal. That's our target. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the increase that we want, which is 300. We're going to divide that by the Keynesian multiplier, which is 4. Well, 300 divided by 4 is 75. And therefore, we're going to take, so 75 is the initial change that we have to make. Now, should we subtract 75 or should we add 75? Well, we want to go up. We want our GDP to go up. So we're going to add 75. And we can add 75 to investment or to government spending or to net exports, and it will bring equilibrium GDP up to 12,700. Because 75 times the Keynesian multiplier of 4 is 300, so the total effect will be 300. So let's go up to investment here. Let's go ahead and add it to investment. So I'm going to change investment from 3,000 to 3,075, and you can see that that automatically changed all of the investment lines to 3,075, and it changed total expenditure here on the right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look to see which total expenditure is equal to income. So if we go down here, we can see 12,400 is not equal anymore. Over on the left is 12,300. So we're going to keep going. This was the number we're looking for. We were hoping it to be 12,700. And if we go across this row, sure enough, there it is, 12,700. So our new equilibrium GDP is 12,700. Okay. Now I want to show you that even if we had put the 75 instead of putting it on investment, we could have put it on government spending. So if we go to government spending, add 75, so now we have 2,775. It changes all of government spending all the way down. And if we go over to the total expenditure to 12,700, you can see that once again it is the same as income. So GDP has increased by $300 billion. When we did a $75 billion injection. Now, and it doesn't matter whether you put the injection on government spending or on investment. In fact, we could increase net exports. Let's go back to 2,700 for government spending, and let's change net exports. We'll add 75 billion, which will change net exports from negative 1,000 to negative 925. There we go, and sure enough, look at this, same thing, 12,700. Okay, so let's go go back to 1,000. All right, so now let's say that we want to decrease. We're back to 12,400 is equilibrium. Let's say we want to decrease equilibrium. You can pick any of these numbers over here. We could pick 12,300, 200, 100, 12,000. It doesn't matter, any one of those. So let's say we want to decrease it by 200 down to 12,200. Well, we're going to divide. That's a negative $200 difference, right? So we're going from 12,400 to 12,200. So that's a minus 200. So we're going to divide minus 200 by the Keynesian multiplier, which is 4, and negative 200 divided by 4 is negative 50. And that means that we have to adjust one of these three categories by subtracting 50. So if we subtract 50 from investment, from 3,000, that would be 2,950. And so, if we change investment to 2,950, reducing investment, look what that does. Here's our 12,200 on total expenditure, and it is equal to income. And sure enough, we have decreased real GDP by 200. And again, we could have done it on investment. I just put investment back. We could subtract 50 from government spending. So 2650, and sure enough, there it is. Total expenditure is 12,200 when income is 12,200. Now here's something else cool you can do. We'll go back to 2,700. You could, if we're subtracting 50, you could subtract 25 from investment, so we have 2,975, and 25 from government spending. So we'll make that 2,675. And look at that. Once again, our 12,200 in total expenditure now matches up with our 12,200 in income. So the adjustment in investment, government spending, or net exports could actually be an and adjustment. You can do some of it from investment, some of it from government spending, and maybe even some of it from net exports. And so I just wanted to make sure that you understood how to calculate what the adjustment would need to be in order to get a GDP number that you want. Okay? All right, so that's it for this. You now know how to increase and decrease equilibrium. We're now going to move on to the final topic.